In March 2020, my wife and I purchased a property in Merida, Mexico. Now, this was something that we've been thinking about for quite some time. And even though we've purchased and sold about 50 properties in the Kansas City area over the past decade or more, we still didn't really know the first step about trying to purchase a home in Mexico. On top of that, we'd heard rumors about how it can be bought and sold, what you can do, and we were just kind of lost. Now, luckily, we had an amazing team of Elizabeth Rodriguez with Yucatan Beach and City Property. We also have an amazing architect and contractor, Henry Ponce, and both of those individuals have really helped us through the entirety of the process. Now, that being said, it's a little bit tough to kind of hold your nose and dive into this process. However, what we're going to talk about is the way that you hold property, the reason for it, and what the history is behind it. It's not something you should be afraid of, but it's definitely something that you will want to know. Quick piece of little advice here. I am neither a lawyer or an accountant. This is just my information from having experienced this over the past couple of years, passing it on to you. I would absolutely recommend that you find a lawyer or an accountant that is familiar with Mexico so they can lead you through the process. But that being said, let's roll the intro. So I said I'm not an accountant or an attorney, but what I will tell you is that my name is Alexander Howell, and this channel is about international travel and real estate, and we do have a focus on Mexico and especially the city of Merida, Mexico, as we have discussed mine and my wife's journey trying to get this property that we purchased renovated. So if you do like videos like that, please, of course, if you like this one, hit the like button. Also, feel free to hit the subscribe button as we have over 100 videos discussing all of these topics. If you have any questions after the video, also feel free to visit my website, alexanderhowell.com, and just hit a contact us page. All that does is send me an email. So if you have a long question, do that. If you have a short question, 816-727-7740. That is my direct text line. So if you have any short questions or anything like that, just send it at 816-727-7740. And last but certainly not least, if you want to follow me on social media, maybe see some of the pictures pop up about our renovation and things like that, at Alexander from KC, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, all of those. That's my username. Let's move on. So the document that we are discussing is called a Fideicomiso. Now, the Fideicomiso is not a lease in any way, shape, or form. It is, think of it like an irrevocable trust, and you and the bank are holding in trust the property that you're looking to purchase. Now, that is what the actual term is, but let's go back a little bit and discuss the history about why this particular product exists. Now, to put it very simply and kind of put a very quick little history lesson onto this, in 1917, the Mexican Constitution was passed, and what that Constitution stated was that foreigners could not own real estate within the restricted zone, the RZ. Now, the restricted zone is 100 kilometers from any international border, so probably the most familiar one is the United States border with Mexico. Foreigners cannot own property within 100 kilometers or 62 miles of that border. The coastlines are slightly different, where a foreigner cannot own property within 50 kilometers of that coastline. So it says oceans, I believe, but it also extends to the Gulf of Mexico, of course. So 50 kilometers is about 31 miles, and foreigners are not, at least at that point, were not allowed to own property within that restricted zone. Now, in the early 70s, bills were passed that basically stated that because Mexico was looking for foreign investment, especially when it came to the United States and the US dollar, they decided that they would not lift the restrictions, but they would create an instrument that allowed for foreigners to invest in those areas. So that law was passed in 1973 and allowed individuals to hold those properties within the restricted zone, but in trust. Now, that is a very important distinction because now foreigners were allowed to move to Mexico, be in those restricted zones, which, let's be honest, most of the time when we think about Mexico and travel to their tourism and the like, even though there are wonderful places like Guadalajara, San Miguel de Allende, we're thinking more about the coastal areas. Now, this program ended up being incredibly successful, and what they ended up doing in 1989 was allowing for those trusts to then be extended. So if your trust ran out, that trust would then be extended, so you could, through a very simple application process, re-up the trust, and boom, you have a property that in a sense, you could own in perpetuity. Then in 1994, we have kind of our most current change to the law, which allowed for those trusts to extend to last up to 50 years. And again, through an application process, you could then reinstate that trust as the beneficiary for the property, and voila, you basically own property in Mexico in the restricted zone, basically the coast or along those international borders, in perpetuity. Now, one of the things you might be asking yourself is, well, if I'm holding this in trust, is there a weird thing that I have to do with the bank? No, they're simply holding the asset in trust and you are the beneficiary of that. So whether it's the reapplication process, pretty much everything is on you. If the value of the property goes down, it's on you. If it needs repair, it's on you. They are simply holding it based on a law change that allowed for foreign investment into Mexico, that cleared up an issue that they had with the restricted zone as it was mentioned into the Constitution. It's a fun way of getting around a law, but at the same time, it allowed you to basically hold your property in trust, and as long as you go through the application process, it's yours forever. So you might be thinking, well, that's great. When I need to buy a property in Mexico, I establish a trust, it's easy to go, I pay the bank a yearly fee, and boom, we own a property in Mexico for 50 years, and then forever if we just decide to renew the application. But what happens if I want to sell? Well, actually, it's very simple, and it's similar to assumable or non-assumable loans in the United States. That's kind of what I'm used to. So if you have an assumable loan, then somebody else, as long as the bank is okay with it, they can take over your payments and boom, they have the same loan. If it's not assumable, then that means that basically they have to go out and get a brand new loan, and then as soon as you guys go to closing, your loan gets paid off, their loan starts anew. Think of that in a very similar way to how this would work. If somebody were to come in and the bank were to approve them, you can assign your trust to them, and let's say you've got 37 years left on it, they're good to go, they just keep paying the bank's okay with it, everybody wins. But if they have a relationship with a different bank, if they want to just start the 50 years over again because that's what's easier for them, what they can then do is apply to a new bank or maybe even the same bank for a trust with that property. Their trust starts, yours then ends, and everything's separated. It's not a very complicated process. The whole thing is just making sure that you get with a notary, an attorney, an accountant that knows exactly how to make sure that all of that is put into one nice little transaction. Closing costs in Mexico are very similar to those in the United States. There are some intricate differences in there, but for the most part, if you owe something, you pay it at closing. If they owe something, they pay it at closing. You get rid and they attain, and now your sale is complete and you can go and do whatever it is that you want to do. Now, the biggest thing within a Fideicomiso is this. If you are in the restricted zone and you are a foreigner, you will need one. If, however, you live inland and let's say from the coast, you're more than 50 kilometers in or 31 miles, or from the restricted zone within the national borders of 100 kilometers or 62 miles, if you're within that, so it's sound like San Miguel de Allende or some areas in Guadalajara, then what you can do is you can just own the property outright just like you would here. It can be in your name. Now, there are probably going to be some other complications with regard to that. What I will tell you is that I have not personally been through that process. So like I've been saying throughout the entire video, find an accountant, find an attorney, make sure that your notary is informed about exactly how you want to own this property, and then make sure that you're reporting it not just to Mexico, but also to the United States as well, especially if you're looking at utilizing one of these as an Airbnb. Everybody wants their tax money, right? So that is a very basic breakdown of what a Fideicomiso is. It is a necessary document based on the Constitution and laws allowing for foreign investment to come in, but it's also not the most complex thing in the world. It is basically just like an irrevocable trust in the United States, only it renews every 50 years, it's held by a bank, and it allows you to own a pretty awesome property in Mexico. And I can tell you that from my wife and my experience, the bank that we work with, it's been a very simple relationship. I believe we pay between $400 or $500 a year to the Fideicomiso. It's basically just like a thanks for signing off on the property agreement. But we pay basically that much money into the trust. And then if you're thinking, well, that seems like a lot, keep in mind that even on our house, which this will go up once it's completed, but on our house currently, we pay about $50 a year in property tax. So you kind of got to weigh the balance there based on what our house is, where it is, and then just say, well, I'm willing to pay a few $100 to have the Fideicomiso if the property taxes are very, very minor. And again, if you guys do have any questions or you want to add something to this video, because I'm 100% sure that I didn't get all of the information in it, comment down below. Let people know exactly what your experience has been. If I missed something, let people know that. And obviously, also don't just pay attention to the comments, go see an accountant and an attorney. But that's the video, guys. Again, if you have any questions about this or anything that I bring up in the other videos, please feel free to contact me at Alexander from KC on social media. Text number 816-727-7740. And obviously, alexanderhowell.com. Just hit contact us. That'll send me a direct email and you can ask however many questions you want. But thank you so much for watching this video. I very much appreciate your time. And if you have made it all the way to this moment, please hit the like button. I'd really appreciate it. If you've already watched the entire thing, a like would be very, very appreciated, as well as subscribe and notification bell and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I think that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to own a property in Mexico, the Fideicomiso. And as always, peace.